In a move that many anticipated, Israeli Minister Benny Gantz announced his resignation from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency government on Sunday. Despite the ruling coalition maintaining a 64-seat majority, Gantz's exit removes the only centrist voice from Netanyahu's far-right coalition. ILTV's editor-in-chief, Maayan Hoffman, has more details.
Israeli Minister Benny Gantz resigned from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's emergency government in a significant political shift. The announcement came Sunday evening, marking the exit of the only centrist voice from Netanyahu's far-right coalition and amid a prolonged conflict in Gaza. Netanyahu responded with a brief statement urging Gantz not to, quote, abandon the front, but reassured the coalition's parliamentary majority of 64 out of 120 Knesset seats remained secure. During his exit speech, Gantz accused Netanyahu of hindering progress toward true victory in the ongoing war.
לצערי, נתניהו מונע מאיתנו להתקדם לניצחון האמיתי שהוא ההצדקה למחיר הכואב והמתמשך. לכן, אנחנו עוזבים היום את ממשלת החירום. בלב כבד, אך בלב שלם.
Gantz called for elections to be held in the fall, urging Netanyahu to set an agreed-upon date for them to occur. Gantz had presented Netanyahu with a June 8 deadline to outline a clear post-war strategy for Gaza, where Israel has been conducting its military offensive against Hamas for the past 8 months. Netanyahu dismissed this request shortly after it was issued. On Sunday, Gantz criticized Netanyahu's cabinet for allowing politics to cloud strategic decisions, stating that quitting while hostages were still in Gaza and soldiers were fighting was an excruciating decision. Some 116 of the 252 people kidnapped by Hamas remain in captivity. Gantz and his number 2, former IDF Chief of Staff Lieutenant General Gadi Eisenkot, were both members of the war cabinet. Gantz was initially expected to announce his resignation on Saturday, but delayed it following the dramatic rescue of 4 hostages by Israeli forces. His exit now leaves Netanyahu's government much more reliant on hardliners. Gantz's move could be a pivotal moment in Israeli politics, further shifting the balance of power within Netanyahu's coalition. What will be the final impact? Only time will tell.
What do Israelis think about Benny Gantz's decision to withdraw from Benjamin Netanyahu's government? Let's take a look.
Minister Benny Gantz's resignation has sparked widespread discussion across Israel, leaving many citizens uncertain about the government's future. Reuters interviewed residents of Tel Aviv to gather their opinions on Gantz's decision. Here are their thoughts.
I think Gantz leaving the government is I think maybe it can be a positive thing. I think using always the card of now it's not the time to be political is dangerous because it's been already 8 months of war. So we can't stay in the status quo all the time. And if it will evoke some kind of change, then it will be a positive thing, and we can only know when time comes, I guess.
I believe that it's good that Gantz is leaving the government now. I believe that he's doing what he thinks is best for the country, and his intentions are right. And maybe this will bring to election soon.
To be honest, I believe Gantz shouldn't leave the government during a war, a crisis, tough time for our country, probably more than ever resolve the hostages. I don't think that someone from the government should leave us at the time of war. I believe we should be united and should be staying strong as a nation.
And joining us now in studio to further discuss Gantz's decision is ILTV's editor-in-chief and veteran journalist, Maayan Hoffman. Maayan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So what does Gantz stepping down mean to Netanyahu? Will the government collapse?
So the truth of the matter is that the coalition is quite robust. If you recall, Netanyahu's coalition is 64 of 120 Knesset members, which means that the government will continue to rule until otherwise there is some kind of change. What it does mean is that the government will likely be much more hawkish. Gantz, for more or less, represented a more centrist viewpoint. He was able to bring a little bit more balance to the government when he joined. And now you're going to go back to that original coalition, if you remember the days of the judicial reform. What it also means is that Netanyahu then is going to struggle more war internally. First of all, the opposition, once Gantz goes back, is going to be much stronger. In addition, just a couple of weeks ago, the coalition some members threatened to step down if Netanyahu decided to sign the U.S. or the Biden ceasefire agreement, saying that that was actually surrendering to Hamas. So what essentially you're going to have is that Netanyahu will have a war in Gaza. He will have a war up north going on with Hezbollah, for lack of a better term. And in some sense, he will have an internal war between the opposition and the coalition as he continues to try to rule the country.
So you said that the government is going to be more hawkish. That's the word you use. So what does that mean when you speak about the war in Gaza?
So as I mentioned, Ben Gvir, Smotrich, some of these members, Itamar Ben Gvir, Bezalel Smotrich, have been very opposed to us signing any kind of ceasefire deal until we actually annihilate Hamas. When Netanyahu went into this war, he said we're going to eradicate Hamas. There will no longer be military or political rule. We know that that is not the case today. And when this deal was set on the table, we need to get the hostages home. Everyone wants the hostages home. But members of his coalition are saying, wait, we have not finished with Hamas. We do not want to see Hamas still in Gaza. We need to restore security to the southern communities, and they are much more likely to say, no, we will not reduce our activity in Gaza, or we will leave your coalition. And remember, he has 64 of 120. So if they do choose to step down, the coalition topples and you end up with elections.
So people keep mentioning Gantz as a centrist voice, but was he so different from Netanyahu's policies?
Well, when it comes to the actual war and what happened on October 8th, I don't believe that Gantz, or he had his sidekick, Gadi Eisenkot, who also stepped down with him and was also a member of the war cabinet. I don't believe that they were so different in terms of whether or not we needed to enter Gaza, attack and destroy Hamas. I think anybody who was in the position of prime minister on October 7th and the day after would have gone in and would have tried to destroy the Hamas infrastructure and make the people of Israel safer. And what that looks like is probably very similar to what you've seen today in terms of military tactic. I think where the difference is what happens the day after. As you know, Gantz only stepped down because he said you have a deadline, June 8th, to make a decision to announce what is going to happen in Gaza when this war ends. And the war at some point does need to end. And because we never presented a plan, now Netanyahu may have one up his sleeve, he may know what's going to happen the day after, but the rest of us do not know. Gantz did not know clearly, and so he made the decision to step down.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Maayan Hoffman, for your analysis today. NBC is reporting that the White House is considering negotiating directly with Hamas to free 5 American hostages in Gaza if the ongoing ceasefire talks with Israel did not succeed. Meanwhile, the Israeli general in charge of the Gaza Strip area has resigned over his role in the failures that led to the October 7th massacre. Meanwhile, the IDF is continuing its operations throughout the Gaza Strip, eliminating Hamas terrorists and terror tunnels. All the details are in the following report.
Intense fighting continued throughout the Gaza Strip today on day 248 of the war. The IDF announced that its forces struck Hamas terror infrastructure in the central Gaza Strip, including underground infrastructures, and targeted numerous Hamas terrorists. The army said it is continuing to uncover and destroy shafts leading to Hamas terror tunnels. Female fighters from Unit 414 identified 2 armed men trying to enter an underground tunnel. Shortly after the identification, Air Force strikes eliminated the terrorists. Meanwhile, Hamas released more propaganda footage Sunday, showing terrorists targeting Israeli tanks and soldiers in Rafah. The footage, shot from the terrorists' point of view, shows Hamas firing rockets at Israeli forces. And on Sunday, the Israeli general in charge of the Gaza Strip area, Brigadier General Avi Rosenfeld, announced his resignation over his role in the failures that led to the October 7th massacre. In a letter penned to his superiors in the IDF, he said that he failed in his life's mission to protect the Gaza border communities. This marks the second high-profile resignation of an IDF officer to resign over October 7th. The first was the chief of military intelligence. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is due back in the region today, visiting Egypt and then Israel, where he will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Yoav Gallant in an attempt to secure a hostage and ceasefire deal. And U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said in an interview with ABC News that the U.S. is continuing to urge Israel to operate differently to avoid the loss of life of Palestinian civilians in Gaza, though stressed the war is ongoing because of Hamas.
We are concerned about every loss of life, including in this operation. Anytime civilians are killed, we're concerned. Of course we are. That's why we want this war to end. The only way to get all of the hostages out and to end any more civilian casualties in Gaza is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage agreement. So the two are not distinct issues. They're connected issues. How do we end the death of civilians in Gaza, Martha? There is only one way. It is to get to a comprehensive ceasefire and hostage deal. That's what President Biden laid out. And that is, again, what he is reinforcing today, because Hamas accepting that deal would bring an end to the tragedy in Gaza.
As such, the United States resumed its humanitarian aid drops into northern Gaza. The U.S. military said a cargo plane on Sunday dropped more than 10 metric tons of rations. According to U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, to date, the U.S. has airdropped more than 1,050 metric tons of humanitarian assistance, in addition to the aid delivered via the man-made pier built by the U.S., which has now resumed operations after detaching from the coast.
As 4 hostages were rescued in a daring operation by the IDF, it has now been confirmed that 3 of them were held by journalist Abdallah al-Jamal in his family home. The family of Abdallah al-Jamal, doctor and contributor to Al Jazeera and the Palestine Chronicle, was holding Almog Meir John, Andrei Koslov, and Shlomi Ziv captive. He was killed by the IDF when he attempted to prevent the rescue of the hostages. Abdallah al-Jamal was previously a spokesperson for the Hamas-run labor ministry in Gaza and continued to contribute writings to the Palestine Chronicle during the war, even while imprisoning hostages in his home. The Israel Defense Forces confirmed in a statement that al-Jamal had been holding the 3 hostages in a civilian area in Nuseirat, adding that this is further proof that the Hamas terror organization uses the civilian population as human shields. The IDF also posted on X asking Al Jazeera, "What's this terrorist doing on your website?" The Qatar-based outlet Al Jazeera confirmed that al-Jamal had contributed to the publications, but said he was not a paid employee of the network. And the Houthis have once again attacked ships traveling in the Red Sea, claiming their acts are in defense of the Palestinians in Gaza. More on this from ILTV's Maayan Hoffman.
Yemen's Houthi group claimed they fired ballistic missiles at the British destroyer HMS Diamond in the Red Sea, asserting that the strike was, quote, accurate, but without confirming any damage. They also reported attacking 2 commercial vessels, the Norderney and the Tavishi, resulting in a fire on the Norderney. However, Britain's defense ministry refuted these claims. The U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM, confirmed that the Houthis damaged 2 commercial vessels in the Gulf of Aden. The Tavishi, a Liberian-flagged Swiss-owned ship, and the Norderney, a German-owned ship, both sustained damage, but no crew members were injured. And the Norderney continued its voyage, CENTCOM said. The Houthis, who control significant parts of Yemen, have been targeting ships since November to show solidarity with the Palestinians in Gaza, disrupting global shipping and increasing fears of the Israel-Hamas conflict spreading. The United States and Britain have conducted strikes against Houthi targets in response.
Tensions escalated in northern Israel overnight with rocket sirens sounding in more than one coastal city. The IDF intercepted a suspicious aerial target from Lebanon, with minor injuries reported as residents rushed to safety. All the details are in the following report by Maayan Hoffman.
Tensions continued in the north of the country overnight, with incoming rocket sirens rocking the northern coastal city of Accra and the surrounding area, as well as Kiryat Bialik. Video shared on social media showed an IDF interceptor missile being launched over Accra, which the IDF confirmed was targeted at a suspicious aerial target that entered Israeli airspace from Lebanon. Magen David Adom ambulance service said that a woman was slightly injured while rushing to her bomb shelter. No one was hit by the rocket or shrapnel. Earlier Sunday night, Hezbollah launched anti-aircraft missiles at Israeli fighter jets over southern Lebanon, according to the IDF. The IDF reported that the aircraft were not in any serious danger from the attack. Notably, however, this is the first instance of anti-aircraft missiles being used against Israeli jets in Lebanon since the war began 8 months ago. Shortly after the missiles were fired, an IDF drone targeted and killed the cell near the coastal city of Tyre. Additionally, the IDF struck several buildings used by Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. The IDF emphasized that it continues to prepare its soldiers to defend against northern threats.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu appointed MK Dani Danon to replace MK Gilad Erdan in New York as ambassador to the United Nations, which has lately been a hotbed of anti-Semitism. This will be Danon's second run in the role. He served from 2015 to 2020. Since the start of the war, Danon has been hosting delegations from around the world in Israel, touring them in the south of the country to show them the devastation that resulted from October 7th. Last month, he hosted former U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, on such a tour. Danon has also taken a strong stance against UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres' perceived hostility towards Israel, even remarking that sometimes he doesn't know if he's a spokesperson for the UN or a spokesman for Hamas. A statement from the Prime Minister's office highlighted Danon's extensive experience in the international arena and expressed confidence that this will bring this experience to bear his new role. In accepting the nomination, Danon emphasized the importance of upholding truth and transparency in Israel's interactions with the international community. The appointment must still be approved by the government, though it is expected to pass easily. Danon would begin his role in August when Erdan returns to Israel. And now for something slightly different. Since the start of the war, we have seen many shows of resilience, both in Israel and in the diaspora. And one of these displays of resilience is standing strong against anti-Semitism and remaining proud and committed to Jewish heritage. And what better way to display that pride than with Judaica? If you're interested in Judaica's story and products, you can now scan the QR code on your screen or click the link in the description below. Well, I'm here in studio with Ariella to discuss the Judaica web store. Hi, Ariella.
Hi.
So tell me a little bit about the Judaica web store. What makes the platform so unique?
So Judaica is one of Israel's leading web stores for Judaica and jewelry. They offer a huge variety of products: Judaica, jewelry, books, Israeli art, wine, even Dead Sea products. And they work with top Israeli brands, including Ahava and Yarden wines. So it's really a great site because they're offering the best of Israel to their consumers, but it's also a great way for people in Israel and the diaspora to support Israel and local businesses and even larger businesses.
And you know, with anti-Semitism rising globally, we've seen all-time highs. What makes people still want to buy Jewish symbols, Jewish jewelry?
To be honest, I actually think contrary to what people might think, I think what we've seen in the last few months was such a surge in anti-Semitism. I think it spurred a great sense of renewed pride in Jewish identity and want and a need to not bow down to hatred and to stand firm against this hatred. So I think that wearing jewelry or, you know, having home decor is now more than ever more meaningful, to be honest. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm from London. Now when I go to London, I never take off my Star of David necklace, and I used to. Before the war, I used to take it off because I felt uncomfortable, but now I don't know if you feel the same, but I think it's a time to be united and stand up and be proud. And I think if anything, it's a really also beautiful thing to influence other people who maybe are more nervous to not be, and, you know, to be proud.
And speaking of your Star of David necklace, I see you're wearing two beautiful necklaces, also a Star of David bracelet there. Can you tell me a little bit about these specific products?
Yeah, so I'm wearing two necklaces now. The shorter gold one is 14 karat gold with 6 white diamonds. Beautiful, dainty. It's on the more expensive side, as well as the silver one, which is sterling silver, a bit larger. And then around my wrist here, on the more affordable side, red string with the Star of David. I don't know if you know, but in mystical Judaism, the red string is like a symbol of the divine protection. So that's a nice one. And then here as well, we have a necklace of the State of Israel, earrings. I can't see what it is, but also another bracelet. I don't know if you want to see.
Wow.
But they have loads, they have everything. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. These are just a few products of many.
Amazing. And I see when you talked about your bracelet, you said it's more on the affordable price. What's the range of prices?
So this bracelet is around $12, which is cheap. Like it's super affordable for people. And the necklace is then around $200, which is also, for such a beautiful piece of jewelry, not too bad. But they definitely, they're very accessible for
amazing range. And what are all the products that they have to offer? Is it only jewelry?
No. So as I said, this is the tip of the iceberg. This is the tip of the iceberg of the jewelry, but then there's also, as I said, home decor, art, Kiddush cups, Seder plates, everything. They have everything. So whatever you could think of in terms of Judaica, they cover. And it's a great site to buy things for yourself, but also for other people. We have Shavuot coming up. Time to maybe treat someone special to you. So I encourage everyone to check it out.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us in studio today. Thank you, Ariella.
Thank you.
And if you're interested in the products, please scan the QR code. And now, in yet another show of Israeli resilience, at a Coldplay concert in Athens yesterday, chants of solidarity with the hostages erupted as Israelis among the crowd chanted, "Bring them home." More from ILTV's Ariella Lachiani.
At a Coldplay concert in Athens on Sunday, a poignant moment unfolded as groups of Israelis began chanting "Bring them home" in a powerful gesture of support for the 116 hostages still held by Hamas. This emotional outcry resonated through the crowd just after the British band finished playing Yellow, a song that has come to symbolize solidarity with the hostages. Athens has become a favored vacation spot for Israelis, particularly now as many avoid Turkey due to its support for Hamas following the terror group's brutal attack on October 7th. The chant at the concert was a stark reminder of the ongoing crisis and the resilience of those affected. This act of unity at the Coldplay concert followed a day after social media erupted with videos of large crowds of Israelis in Athens celebrating the rescue of 4 hostages. Noah Argamani, Shlomi Ziv, Almog Meirjan, and Andrei Kostov were successfully brought back to Israel in an operation on Saturday, sparking joy and relief across Israel and among its diaspora.
And now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Partly cloudy skies are expected tonight around the country with warm temperatures set to reach lows of about 21 degrees Celsius or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny skies are expected alongside rising temperatures set to reach highs of 32 degrees Celsius or 91 degrees Fahrenheit. That's all for today's news. For more updates from Israel on all your devices, check out our ILTV channels, subscribe to our ILTV newsletter, and don't forget to check out our website, iltv.tv, with all the latest news from the heart of the State of Israel. I'm Rachel Safdie. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.